The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
All right, guys, I want to welcome you to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Show. Today we're going to be talking about habit tracking. And I really want to break this down in today's show to make it super practical for you to use in 2022, but also, obviously talking about the importance of what it is, why it matters, but also how you can implement this into your day-to-day routine so that you can get the most effective strategy on how to do this, but also how significant it is to actually do in your everyday life. So this kind of came up in a conversation I had the other day where someone had asked me, hey, why are you, taking pictures of what you do? Like, what program are you doing? And what I've done is pretty much every day since the first of the year, I've posted, hey, day 10, day 11, day 13 of 365. And the reason why I did that is because I know in my mind, especially, let's just say this, when I set a challenge, a 90-day challenge, or even a year goal of what I want to accomplish, as I begin to scale that back to 90 days and to 30 days, what I know to be true a lot of times is many of the things, the habits that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, it almost feels like you're not accomplishing anything because, oftentimes when we start a new habit, you don't really see the result of it for at least, 4 to 6 weeks. And so I know that in between that, the book Atomic Habits calls it the Valley of Disappointment. Well, the Valley of Disappointment is really where we don't see the improvement for a period of time. And it's oftentimes where we say, well, nothing's working. But what I've found is that actually tracking my progress through there, it keeps me, it shows me progress, and it may not be visible in this form of, hey, I'm going to be getting a 6-pack or money coming in, but what it shows me is progress that I'm making every single day, and I'm getting closer to that goal I want, and it gives me a focus. Now, the other thing that the tracking progress does is obviously what we track and measure is going to improve. And so, hey, if I track and measure my bank account every single day, the probability of me changing my bank account or increasing that goes up dramatically versus, when I ignore it. Same thing as if I track and measure my calories. If you guys have ever tried to lose weight, the probability of me either losing weight and getting healthy goes up versus someone who doesn't do any of that. If I track and measure how much I'm lifting, the probability of me increasing my weight or my lifts goes up dramatically. No different than if I track and measure anything when it comes to maybe my marriage. If I track and measure date nights, chances are that I continue to do those and stay on track with those. If I track and measure prayer and how often I'm doing that, the chances of me doing it versus, if I don't track any of my progress, obviously the chances of me doing that, that don't really weigh. But so I want to talk not only today about, what measuring and tracking is. So habit tracking is really, it's just about tracking your progress. And so, whether you have a calendar and you put an X on it every day that you finish up, your habit or whatever that is. I usually post after my morning habits One of the other things that I've started to do this year is do a video every single day. Now, of the 13 days so far in 2022, I've missed one. For many of you, you might be like, well, you already screwed that up, but I didn't really screw it up because it's really easy just to get back on track, the next day. It's really easy just to get back in the habit of doing it versus feeling guilt and shame. But it's not only about tracking the habit, it's about why we're doing it. And why we do it is we see the progress over time. So even if I have a calendar and I X out, let's say there's 31 days in the month, I X out 30. Do you think I'm going to go back and focus on the one that I missed? No, because I'm going to see all of the days that I actually did what I committed to. And that's going to give me momentum. So every day I measure my progress, and why this really matters is I begin to get momentum. That momentum begins to pick up steam and pick up the pace. And so I start feeling like I'm accomplishing more than if I don't measure it at all. And it almost adds fuel to my results, or almost like makes me feel like I'm accelerating more towards my results. And so one of the cool things is when we start measuring progress, or at least tracking our progress, it's going to be something that kind of makes us feel like we're accelerating towards, my initial goal, which my initial goal would be kind of a 30-day benchmark. So I'm going to start picking up momentum, which is going to help me start accelerating closer to that. And any goal that we go through, there's going to be a period of time where it's going to feel like, man, I'm not really accomplishing anything. And that's really why measuring that progress in there is so important and so valid. Now, the other thing I really want to break down is like, okay, so there's, what, habit tracking in, and then there's why we do it, but then how do we actually do it? Now, you guys, there's a couple of different ways you can track progress. Number one, you can track progress by getting a calendar, Xing it out. You could track progress by, making a post every single day, or maybe doing a video, whatever you feel like would really push you. Now, one of the cool things with a program 75 Hard that a lot of people do is they take pictures of themselves every day. And so one thing that it does is it starts giving you the feeling of you're making progress. And I think that's one really cool thing about that program is, people are able to look over the course of 75 days, when they started to when they finish, and they get to see the progress. And maybe on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't feel like you're changing. But when you really look at day 1, day 30, you start to see a pretty big change. Then you look at day 30 to day 60, you start to see an even bigger change. And then you look at day 1 to day 75. Now you're like a completely different person. And so if there's anything you can take away from that, is that you're tracking your progress and you're seeing your progress as you go. And so that's carrying the momentum for you. The other thing is, number 2, one of the rules I use is don't break the chain. Now, don't break the chain means we're not going to break the chain of the habit that we're doing. So if it was working out, it would be continually working out and trying not to break the chain. Now, there's also, like I said, I broke the chain of the videos I was doing, but it was one day and there wasn't much resistance to get back on track the next, although I pushed it off until later in the night. And so don't break the chain is like, even if it's a minute of working out, or even if it's 10 minutes of working out, or an hour, just try not to break the chain. And so, not breaking the chain in my prayers will make a significant effect on the relationship that I have with God. It's going to be powerful, and it's going to be connected, that relationship I have with him, because I'm not breaking the chain of prayer. So there's no rules on whether it needs to be 10 minutes, an hour, or 1 minute. The important thing is that I don't break the chain. The other thing is, don't break the chain of marketing. And this is where I see a lot of business owners make mistakes, is if you don't break the chain of marketing, you'll have an endless amount of leads coming in. Not breaking the chain of working out, you'll eventually be in the shape and health that you want to be in. And so I think it's important that we look at breaking the chain, not breaking the chain allows us to be, to have an endless amount of leads if we're talking about marketing. And so it's something you want to work on every single day because it often yields the highest return on results that you can get. Now, one of the other things that I love to track is my phone use weekly. And the reason why I love doing this is because it shows me how much time I'm wasting and how much time I can actually buy back. Now, here's something you may want to consider. The average person spends 4 to 6 hours a day on their phone. And for many of you, that would mean, okay, so 4 times 7 is 28 hours a week. If you're going 6 hours a week, then you're at 42 hours a week. Now, this is an average person. This is not even the high end or low end. But what that equates to over the course of a year is 56 days a year you would be on your phone, or 84 days a year that you would be on your phone. So even if I bought back, I was spending 6 hours on it and I came back to 4, the difference in that over the course of a year is going from 84 days to 56, which is almost me buying back 30 days. It's buying back 28 days over the course of a year, which, how many of you take a 28-day vacation, let alone, a 7-day, but that's the effect of being on your phone that much. And so that's one of the things that I track. And I could sit there and say, listen, I do the majority of my business on my phone. It doesn't matter if I want to buy back time. Many people tell me they don't have time to market. They don't have time to, work on their business, yet they're spending 4 to 6 hours every single day on their phone. Well, I know this, if you just got 2 hours every day, that's 14 hours in a week. That's almost 60 hours in a month, which would equate to 720 hours over the course of a year. You divide that by 24. That's how many days you're going to get back, almost 30 in a year, just by taking off 2 hours a day on your phone. And that is a huge amount of time. And I would think this, like, hey, however much time you buy back, I mean, imagine if you got 30 extra days on your phone a year to work on not on your phone, but 30 days extra a year to work on your business, which would equate to almost 3 days a month. You could take off and work 24 hours to work on your business. That's more than enough time. So, that's a big excuse I hear a lot of people make. So number one, how we do this is we track our progress by using, either a calendar or some type of, picture or some type of post. We focus on not breaking the chain and just continually doing the work on that. We also track our phone use because that's the simplest way to buy back time. And then the other thing is habit tracking leverages multiple laws of behavior change. So we make it easy. We make it attractive and satisfying. It's attractive when we can, get small wins. The biggest thing I've seen is when we can track small wins, it makes us want bigger wins, and we get kind of a compound effect to that. So when we track progress, when we track our habits, it leverages multiple laws of behavior change, which goes into obviously making us get better results in this. And so that's really the importance of what habit tracking is, why it matters, and then really how we begin to do that. But again, these are the important things that you got to start thinking about and doing every single week so that you can start winning. And this is really a way to gamify your habits, which is really cool because you can really see the changes that you're making, not only mentally, but also physically, and then also financially in your business. And then obviously spiritually, these are some great ways to do that. So guys, if you have any questions on this, you're watching this live, #live, you're watching the replay, #replay, you're listening to the podcast. Thank you for being on here. If you have any questions, reach out to me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse